So right about here is this shot right there. And you can see there are a lot of trees there now that weren't there in 1940. But you can't even see the Griffith Park Hills, which are in the background there. They're covered over with vegetation right now. But this is Minnie Avenue. And the interesting thing about this is that you can really see the process of animation here by looking at just these buildings. So these are the oldest buildings and the most important buildings on the lot.
So they're really laid out in sequential order of the animation process, right?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, not only are they laid out in sequence as the buildings, but the buildings themselves are in sequence. So if in the animation process, you would start on the third floor of this animation building. So you can see right there on the corner is Walt Disney's office. And it would go from Walt Disney and the producers and directors and everybody who had offices on the third floor. And then it would wind its way down to down through the second floor where the layout artists and composers had offices through there, but then it would end up on the first floor, which is where all the animation was done. So the animators would then draw the drawings, and then they would go over to this building, which is the inking and painting building over on this side of the street. And then they would go from the ink and paint building to the camera building where the painted cells were shot. And then they would go from the camera building to the cutting building where the editing was done. And then of course you would have the other buildings nearby, like the sound stages, stage A where the orchestra recording was done, B and C where the dialogue and special effects and sound effects recordings were done. And so all of these support buildings would support the important functions of these animation buildings.
Now, is it true that there are actually tunnels beneath us that connect these buildings so animators could move art from one building to the next without going outside?
Yeah, it really is true, because here in Southern California, we usually have glorious weather like this, but often it gets windy and raining. Sometimes it does rain in Southern California. So they actually, when they built these buildings, they put a tunnel that went from the basement of the animation building over to the basement of the ink and paint and the camera building. And so the guys would push trolleys of cells and animation artwork. They would push it over to where the cells were inked and painted.
I don't suppose we could see the tunnel.
If you're very nice to me.
I'm always nice to you.
No, that's true. Okay, let's do that.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I did promise, because you were such a good boy, that you could see the tunnels under the ink and paint department. And this is them. This is the entrance from the
this is so cool.
ink and paint side. So what these were for was to bring animation from the animators building, the animation building, over to the ink and paint building without having it exposed to the elements. So they would use this underground tunnel.
It's a steep incline.
It's very steep. In fact, Roy Disney once told me a story about when he was a kid. They had lots of cells left over after the filming was done, and they would store them down here. So Roy said that the animators, for fun, would grab these cells and they'd throw them down on the floor in these tunnels, and they would slide on them and see how far they could go before they fell down.
It's just, by today's standards, priceless artwork being used as toboggans.
And you know what's really funny is that they actually used to grab Roy, and they would stand him on him, and two animators would grab each hand and would slide him down the hall as far as they could go. I don't think anybody ever explained to his dad what they were doing. And as far as I know, he never cracked his head open, so I guess everything was okay.